An adolescent wanting to play can be very persistent and may not realize his own strength. But an experienced mother can fend off such potentially dangerous encounters. Observations by researchers suggest that most new mountain gorilla babies are males, but it is extremely difficult to be sure when working in the field. An imbalance in proportion of males to females might indicate inbreeding problems. This is to be expected in such a small population, and made worse by the social organization of gorillas, for the majority of infants are fathered by a small number of adult males. Inbreeding could, in the long term, cause problems, perhaps irreversible ones, and it is difficult to see a solution. In a world already loaded against them, visits to the bamboo zone near the park border can be extremely hazardous. It is here that poachers set their traps, using springy stems to power snares, which they set primarily for two kinds of antelope, bushbuck and duiker. To help the gorillas, experienced anti-poaching teams run daily patrols through the forest. Rwandese and Mountain Gorilla Project personnel have been doing this dangerous work for many years and have amazing ability to spot snares, often set in lines along animal trails.
Ça c'était hier?
Non, ça, je pense que c'est pour hier. Non, c'est ce matin.
C'est ce matin, oui. C'est ce matin. Ok. On va le couper. On va chercher des autres coupés.
Until 1984, gorillas were killed by poachers to service a macabre tourist trade in gorilla parts, hands for ashtrays and heads as souvenirs. But even though that has been stopped, the gorillas still suffer. In 1988 alone, patrols found and cut 2,600 antelope traps. Gorillas have been removed from snares, treated, and some survive. But a snare inflicts a terrible wound. It can cost a gorilla a hand, and death may follow if gangrene takes hold. This scene was recorded on amateur video by Craig Shoney and shows gorillas from the Sousa group playing with a snare, which fortunately has been triggered without doing any harm. This male was lucky. A snare cost him his hand, but he manages quite well using the remaining one. Suzanne Abelgard, a qualified vet, checks on the gorilla's general welfare.
I monitor 7 groups of habituated gorillas, and I try and visit each group about once every 2 weeks. Sometimes working here can be hard, climbing up and down volcanoes, getting home, soaking wet, cold, hungry. But I have to admit that it's all worthwhile in the end.
The work is rewarding, but inevitably there are depressing days when tragedy strikes.
like it's dead.
Yeah, there doesn't appear to be any movement there whatsoever.
But she's still holding it in a pretty normal position.
She's holding it.
Imbele, a young female, has had her first baby and lost it. It was just 4 days old. It is a sad day when a gorilla dies. When a mother loses a baby, it is quite normal for her to continue carrying the body as if it was still alive for 2, even 3 days after death. Craig and Suzanne stay with her in the hope that they can collect the body for an autopsy if she drops it. As time passes, Imbele puts down the body of her baby more and more frequently. To reassure her, Craig imitates the calming sounds gorillas use when amongst each other.
She seems to be feeding now, so maybe we should just stay back a bit and not push her too much.
I would agree, absolutely.
Yeah. We should probably stick by her for a while, though, and see if we can recover the body. So I can do an examination back at the lab and try and find out why it died.
The autopsy reveals severe injury and internal bleeding as the cause of death. Imbele was possibly too submissive to protect her baby from the eager attentions of the other gorillas, and it seems likely that the baby died as a result of boisterous play. In heavy rainfall, which is frequent, the gorillas stop feeding. The adults sit motionless, but for the infants, there is time to play. As the afternoon draws on and the rain abates, the gorillas build their nests for the night. And as dusk falls outside the park, local villagers gather in a square to see a film about gorillas, part of the conservation education program organized by the Mountain Gorilla Project and the US Peace Corps. It is a popular and regular event designed to arouse interest in the park and its animals, and to keep the people up to date with any news. The film showings have been very successful in promoting conservation, and there has been a steady increase in the number of Rwandese who believe there is a benefit in keeping the park. Dawn over Mikeno. At the edge of the park, a group of 6 tourists assembles.
We just have some simple instructions for you for simple behavior in the forest and also behavioral things with the gorillas. Right here is the limit of the park and the forest. Once we go into the forest, we ask you to talk softly. Obviously, the quieter we are, the better chances there are of seeing other wildlife, such as duiker, bushbuck, buffalo, maybe some golden monkeys, and a wide variety of bird life. Okay, once we get to the gorillas, we want to stay again in a tight group, staying behind the guides and or myself, okay? And we really want to keep a distance, a minimal distance of 5 meters between the gorillas and ourselves. This is our biggest defense mechanism against disease transmission to the gorillas. The gorillas are closely enough related to us that they're very susceptible to human diseases, but yet they are not at all resistant. In addition, at 5 meters, we are not imposing upon the gorillas, so it allows you a better chance to see their natural behavior.
The tourists spend only 1 hour with the gorillas, but there's rarely any disappointment. This group has 13 animals, 1 adult male silverback, 5 adult females, 5 juveniles, and 2 young infants. The tourists are helping the gorillas. By paying for their brief visit, they are bringing money to the park. Little do the gorillas know that by tolerating the visitors, they are safeguarding their future, for they are now a valuable asset to Rwanda. The hour expires, the tourists depart, and the forest belongs to the gorillas once more. The unanswerable question is, how far can conservation management be taken? The future of the mountain gorillas is already an uncertainty. But to what extent should we interfere with the population of wild animals in order to save them? Every step can and does raise new problems. Do frequent visits by people upset natural behavior patterns? How great is the risk from human-transmitted diseases? Should the vet intervene to help weak or sickly animals? Do we know enough to do what we are doing? The philosophical discussions could continue for a long time, but time is a luxury we cannot afford. For now, every management strategy is considered most carefully, and research continues to further knowledge not only of the gorillas, but of the park as a whole. Andrew Plumtree is a research biologist based at Karasoke. His project is to study 5 of the herbivores in the park. He monitors their impact on food plants to find out how much competition there is, especially with the gorillas. Another study is looking at the rare golden monkeys, which are only known from the Virunga Mountains and a few other forests nearby. Shane Parkhill has spent months trying to get close enough to them to find out about their feeding habits. The golden monkeys eat, among other things, bamboo shoots, just as the gorillas do. Mikeno, the oldest Virunga volcano, now extinct. 2 other volcanoes are still active, though, and there are signs to suggest that volcanic activity in the whole region is increasing, a further threat to the gorillas. This is a new cone named Kimanura on the flanks of active near Mulagira in adjacent Zaire. It erupted in May 1989, and the previous major eruption in the area was only 2 years before. No gorillas live here. In fact, the new eruptions are separated from the park by a narrow strip of cultivation and settlements. An eruption inside gorilla territory could, in the short term, devastate their population. In the long term, the eruptions on Near Mulagira and nearby Nyiragongo would theoretically increase the natural area. But for now, the park exists as an island in an ocean of human settlement. In many parts of Africa, and indeed the world, the story is a familiar one. Dwindling animal populations in natural areas that become smaller year by year. The pressures are obvious. The options for local people are to starve now if they do not exploit the conservation area, or to starve in a few years' time if they do. Happily, Rwanda is not yet in such dire straits, although the population, already the densest in Africa, is still increasing fast. With 95% of the people living by agriculture, immense demands are placed on land, and this problem can only increase as time goes on. Somehow we must find a solution to the benefit of all, a balance between humans and wildlife. Part of the appeal and presence of these gorillas is the fact that they are so close to us. To spend time with them is an experience that can never be forgotten. Peanuts was the first wild gorilla ever voluntarily to reach out and touch a human hand. While this film was being made, Peanuts continued to be sick, and after getting progressively weaker, he finally stopped eating. On the 1st of May, after several days of not moving from his night nest, he died.
That award-winning programme is available on a BBC video.